This week on Cageside Seats, the podcast, we're talking the Forbidden Door, AEW's women's division, and Ronda Rousey's feelings.
Welcome to Cageside Seats, the podcast. We don't have a good name, but we do have great opinions. I'm your host, Stella Cheeks, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Marcus Benjamin.
What up, Stella? What up, people? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm feeling pretty good about wrestling this week.
Same.
It's not perfect, but last night was fun.
Yeah, Dynamite was genuinely exciting last night. It was fun. It was
Bloody.
surprising, but it was bloody as we can't say that. It was bloody as fudge. Shout out to Christmas Story for giving me that substitution. It was everything. Dynamite was everything I wanted a wrestling show to be, especially on a Wednesday, especially after Monday and Tuesday. Sorry.
Hey, no, I get it, man. I agree. Dynamite was the good palate cleanser right before this podcast. Well, let's get in it. So the big news this week is Tony Khan and his huge announcement.
You know what? I actually think someone on our staff said maybe the huge announcement was because it was Keith Lee.
Yeah.
A huge man, which is cool.
A huge man who they let wrestle with his shirt off again. The amount of people on the timeline that were like, yes, shirt off. In like a not pervy way. It was just like, yeah, let this person wrestle and be proud of his body and like not be weirdly fat shamed on TV. Like, shirts off. Keith Lee's free.
Not only that, but wrestling unencumbered means he doesn't have to think about that. He's not conscious about his weight now. He can just go out there and do his thing. And the way so again, for just to recap for anyone who missed Dynamite, Keith Lee showed up, fought Isaiah Cassidy for a spot in the Face of the Revolution ladder match, which is a number one contender spot for the AEW championship. He gets in there with Isaiah Cassidy. The crowd goes wild. His music is insane. He gets into the ring and launches Cassidy across the ring. I'm not talking about like he launched him from like the middle of the ring to a turnbuckle. He launched
coast to coast.
Yes, from one end of the turnbuckle on the opposite end, not even on the same side, to the other side diagonally. Cassidy flew. He would have flown out of the ring if not for just gravity. Like, it was insane, and he looked good. He moved good. Cassidy, shout out to Cassidy for making him look like $2 million.
Yeah.
First of all,
I mean, Private Party they're incredible. Like,
yes,
they're great tag team, but like, yeah, Cassidy sold everything like a champ.
Yes, and props to Matt too. Matt Hardy was there, also selling everything like a champ until he bounced.
And still teasing his brother.
Yeah, still teasing Nero. By the time you all listen to this, a special dark will have already aired. On that special dark, the night we're recording, Matt shows up with Private Party. And I know this because I was there for that dark. And so I'm interested in hearing whether they re-record their commentary, because this was 2 weeks ago now, or whether they just let it ride and just, we're in this world now where Matt Hardy leaves them one night, but he's with them the next, because they normally act as if dark is recorded days, like a day before Dynamite or 2 days before Dynamite. I want to know how they play that off. It's weird, but it's not Keith Lee involved, but it's just a weird thing in my head because I'm a sucker for continuity, and it's comic book nerds. We love continuity.
We love to complain about continuity, that's for sure.
That's for damn sure.
Just thinking of like Keith Lee shooting Isaiah Cassidy across the ring, the best, funniest tweet that I saw all last night did not come from me, sadly, but it was from a Twitter user at Crasspants. I don't even know if I follow them.
I love that name.
Yeah. But it just says AEW has so many twinks for Keith Lee to yeet. And that is like the perfect encapsulation of the power of Keith Lee. I mean, one of my favorite gifs that is saved on my phone is of Keith Lee like just side checking Adam Cole into the NXT crowd. Like, the power of Keith Lee is incredible. His charisma finally came through. Like, he felt, even when he was doing good stuff in NXT, he felt so muted. It just didn't feel like Keith Lee. And I saw him live a ton before he got signed, and so it's just so nice to see him like back and free, both figuratively and literally out of his shirt.
It is, and I want to see what they do with him. I didn't think that Keith Lee was a good fit for a ladder match initially, and then I saw him last night, and he completely made me eat all of those words. And I want to know, that it's funny you mentioned Adam Cole. Their heavyweight title picture is getting a little crowded now. We got Adam Page as the champ.
The Battle of the Adams.
Yeah, Adam Cole is saying, after Adam Page's match last night on Dynamite, which we will definitely get to, Adam Cole comes out and lets everybody know, I want next.
That just double tap to the belt, like, this is mine.
Yeah, that's it. He wants next. Keith Lee is about to enter this ladder match. He wants next. Everybody else in that ladder match wants next. Have they mentioned who else is in that ladder match yet, or no?
I don't remember or know, and I don't want to look it up. We're bad
at
our jobs.
let's just say they haven't. They haven't.
It's definitely not fully set, right? So we don't know everybody who's going to be there, because Revolution is not for like another month-ish or 3 weeks or so. Like, it's in the middle of March.
Right. So yeah, they got time to figure that out and decide who's in, who's not. I wonder, is Moxley going to be in? I wonder, is Bryan going to be in? There's a ton of names now that they can just throw in there who would be interesting foils for Keith Lee, and potentially interesting foils for Adam, Page, or Cole.
Yeah.
Either one. Although I'm not ready for Hangman to lose that belt yet at all. No way. Especially not after last night. No.
Yeah, especially because like Adam Page has only defended his belt a handful of times, and each time has been a banger of a match. Like, he is everything I want a champion. My only complaint about his championship run is actually a complaint that he cut in a promo, which is like, I want to be a fighting champion, and I've only gotten to defend this belt like a handful of times. I want to be on TV more. I want to be the face of this company. I want to be wrestling more. And so, he had to get through Omega. He had to get through Danielson. We just had this big bloody Texas death match. Those are big matches, right? So not that, I mean, it's a title belt. It's the heavyweight, main title. So obviously they should have gravitas and feel important, but I think we could make them feel maybe a little less important for a while, and have more of them, or have them be just as important, but have them be quicker, I think, or just put him on TV more. Like, he is the champion. I think that he should be on TV a little bit more. So hopefully, they love Adam Cole. He's on TV a million times a week. So if he's going to go in a program with Adam Page, hopefully that means we'll just get more of the champion on TV, because I mean, we're all Cowboy fans here.
We all love Cowboy. Shiznit.
I love the Cowboy.
They need to take a page out of 1998 WWF, where Austin was on TV all the time. He didn't defend the belt all the time, but he was always on Raw. That's what they need to do. Whether he was defending the belt, whether he wasn't defending the belt, he was the main focus of Raw.
Yeah.
Every single week for God knows how many weeks. And it would be great if Adam Page could do that. Maybe obviously not in the same exact way, because he and Austin are very different characters and very different people. But I don't want his reign to feel lesser than, because when Kenny was the champ, Kenny was always on TV.
I think it's a thing that happens a lot in wrestling. I think it's easy for a heel champion to show up and muck around, right? And steal the spotlight and cut promos and be like, I'm not going to defend this belt. I'm just going to show it off and be like a squirrely cheat or whatever. It is trickier, and it's definitely trickier for the writers. I think we've seen this in AEW's women's division specifically. It's tricky for the writers to have like a pure face champ sometimes. Yeah, Moxley was a face, but Moxley is also just like chaotic tornado of a human that can come out
It's funny. You said tornado, and I was thinking Tasmanian devil.
I actually was thinking Tasmanian Devil, and I couldn't remember the name of that particular cartoon, so I was just like, he makes a tornado shape. So
and
that
this is why we host a podcast together, people. Look
perfect.
at that. Yeah.
Simpatico. And, you know, Jericho was a heel and a face and whatever, but Jericho's also Jericho. They made him the first champion for a reason, because they wanted him to be on TV to bring eyes to AEW. They are definitely doing a better job with Adam Page than they ever did with like Riho or whatever, but they would do that with her too. Like, oh, she's a champion. We love her. We don't have anything for her. But you look at Britt, who's on TV all the time because she's being a heel and mucking it around. So I think that they just need to have a little bit more faith in Adam Page, because he shows up and kicks butt in the ring, but like his whole program up into him fighting, he would be on TV in little spots here and there, or just cut promos. He can do it. They just need to give him the time to do it. Like, not everything has to be so intense. Like,
Right.
they can just give him TV time.
Yeah, and it was, to my earlier point, it was easier with Austin because Austin's beef was with Vince.
Right.
And so whether he was whatever, Vince is always going to be there. Austin always has something to do. To your point, Kenny always has something to do as a heel. Moxley always had something to do because he just wanted to fight everybody all the time. That's all he, again, drinks blood. That's all he wants to do. Kenny, annoying. Moxley, crazy and insane. Jericho, I am the inner circle.
Right.
Feed me, whatever. It's different with Cole. It's different with Page. I keep calling him Cole. Jeez.
Well, we got Adam Cole, Adam Page, Ethan Page. It's like a lot.
You know, and again, to give Vince another point, this is why Vince says you can't have people on the show with the same name. You can't do it. But the Hangman needs a foil. You know, like there needs to be a story for him. There was a story with Kenny of, I'm going around and I'm collecting all these belts. There was a story for Jericho. I am the first champion of this place, and I am putting this place on the map. Watch me. There was a story with Mox. I'm not at that other place anymore. I'm going to be the guy I always wanted to be, and I'm going to win this. I'm going to show you while I defend this championship every single night. With Hangman, they need that hook, you know?
Well, the problem is that their story with Hangman was him not believing in himself, and then he started to believe in himself, and he won the belt, and it was great. You know, we all love like an underdog, like Cinderella story, whatever. And then his first defense was from Danielson, who was like, "Well, you beat Kenny, but you can't beat me. Like, we still doubt you, right?" And even this last one of this death match, there was a lot of promo going back and forth between Lambert and Archer or whatever, being like, we don't believe in your cowboy shit. Like, you're not a real cowboy. You're not a real champion. And honestly, like, at this point, he has proven himself to himself and to us. He is a real champion. And so the story needs to get away from him constantly having to prove himself, and just needs to be like, no, I am the guy. And that is the transition that they need to make right now. And hopefully, since like last night, he literally was like bloodied and beaten, and the ring was falling apart, and he took the nastiest stair spot. He like,
yes, good Lord,
bounced off those stairs.
Yes.
Like, woo, like, he has proven himself. Now we just need to go into programs where he's the best, and everybody is coming for him, or whatever they want to do. It just needs to go away from, I have to prove myself every week, I think.
And I think we'll get that with Adam Cole, because now we're back to the elite connection.
Right. And we have the history of Adam Page with the elite. And also, like, Adam Cole is being kind of a little squirrely around the Young Bucks, and is like kind of like building a faction underneath their noses.
He's doing the Inception thing. He's doing the faction inside of the faction, which is to overtake the other faction. It's this nice little nesting doll he's got. And he also
he's got a knife pervert now.
He does.
He's got a knife pervert.
Well, let's talk about that, because that was the actual forbidden door.
Right, because the whole drama was like, Tony Khan was like, tune into Rampage. I got a huge announcement, and we're all watching Rampage, and like nothing happens. It gets to the end, and we're like, okay, what happened? And then he goes on Twitter and it's like, the announcement was that I had an announcement and we're just kicking in the forbidden door. And like, he just was throwing words.
I'm sorry. It's just the announcement was that I had an announcement.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, Mayor Quimby, thanks.
Totally. And like, he used forbidden door in a way where we were all like, forbidden door means they're signed with a different company and they're coming into your company, not that they were fired by another company and you're hiring them. Because everybody just assumed correctly that it was Keith Lee. So then Tony Khan was like, okay, I'm gonna get somebody to come through the forbidden door and I'll have the huge announcement. And Jay White, knife pervert, got to Switchblade, I guess. Sorry, I guess I'll stop calling him knife pervert.
That is what the back of his jacket says, Switchblade. Yes. let's refer to him properly.
It benefited from that because he is, I think, currently signed with New Japan. So he walked through the forbidden door. So we got both.
So as someone unfamiliar with the knife pervert, Switchblade, school me. Like, school me, school the listeners who don't know. I
can't school you. I only know him kind of in passing. We should have invited Claire on.
Oh, we should have, because Claire knows everything about everybody.
Claire, that's the reason why Claire does live vlogs and does the Sermon on the Mat.
Yep.
You should go read all of Claire's stuff. He's a good wrestler. He is in New Japan, so he's had run-ins with like the Bucks and Kenny Omega and stuff. So like that's where that
okay
that comes in. That's why he was in that specific segment, to be like, hey, we all have New Japan connections. I'm a New Japan guy. Knife pervert. So
you were on wrestling Twitter last night as our Twitter maven, obviously. What was the reaction to the knife pervert Switchblade showing up? Like, was it, oh yeah, that's it, or was it, that's it? All right.
No, I think that reaction was actually pretty. People were excited to see him. People like him. He is a good wrestler. And I think people knew that it wouldn't be it, so it wasn't like a disappointed thing. It wasn't like, oh, it's just Jay White. I think it was just like, oh, we're getting Jay White and somebody else. And so I think actually having Jay White come out first made people really excited. Actually, I think it was actually a really smart move to have like a little surprise and then a big surprise.
Well, this goes to what we said last night. What we all said basically to a person last night, that Tony Khan has his faults, most definitely. But the one thing he does do on a fairly consistent basis is deliver and not make me feel dumb for watching his show.
And the thing about Tony Khan too, for better or for worse, I'm sure it does not work out well in every aspect of his life. But Tony Khan is a people pleaser. Like, he wants people to like his show. He wants to be the popular kid, right? Like, he literally bought a company to hang out with wrestlers. Like, he wants to be the popular kid, which is working out because he does things for the audience that he knows the audience will like, right? He doesn't treat us stupid, and he's like, people love Keith Lee, I'll give him Keith Lee. People love Mercedes Martinez, I'll give them Mercedes. Whereas Vince doesn't give an F what we think.
No.
They're too big to fail. Vince exists to make himself laugh, which part of me respects. Sometimes I make tweets on. I made a tweet about Hamlet on the Cageside Twitter, which was relevant to the quiz bowl, but I got like 4 likes. But I was like, "This is for me. These are my theater degrees. This is for me."
There are things I put in my recaps that are purely for my entertainment. And I'm like, no one's going to get this but me, and that's fine.
But we don't run billion-dollar companies, right?
Also that, and also Vince, whoever else works at that company, often makes it pretty clear that there is a bit of a disdain for us. And that's what makes it worse. It's talking out both sides of their necks. It's on one hand, we want to put smiles on faces. It's on the other hand, it's, why are you guys messing up things?
No, it's that. It's we want to put smiles on your faces, you dumb idiots who live in your parents' basements. Right? That's what it is. It's like, you guys are a bunch of plebes and we're gonna make you smile, you dum-dums. And they write for a primordial like sludge that has like no brain functions. They're like, yeah, that'll make nobody laugh.
According to Hook, the movie Hook, not the wrestler Hook, that is a paramecium.
Exactly. That's exactly what I meant.
Shout out to Hook. The movie, not the wrestler. Although, shout out to Hook, the wrestler also.
Yeah, always shout out to Hook.
Always shout out to Hook.
So Tony Khan, his people pleasing is annoying sometimes and makes him seem kind of like a big old dork on Twitter, but like we benefit from it. And AEW is overall like a really good show. That doesn't mean that they don't have flaws.
Nope.
Like every company is gonna have flaws. That's like media is never gonna be perfect. Like
Yep.
critiquing it to make it better is fine. Like, but sometimes they have a dang near perfect show. Like,
and right now, I would say we're coming up on we're almost on year 2 of Dynamite, right? Or no, we're almost year 3 now because their first show was in 2019.
it's so rude of you to ask me to know how time works when we're in the middle of a pandemic.
No, see, I was asking myself. I'm sorry. I was
Okay.
I was looking at you while asking myself because I went to their first show in 2019, so I should know this. So 2019, so we're coming up on 3 years of Dynamite.
Mm-hmm.
They have a pretty good batting average
Mm-hmm.
for almost 3 years. And granted, we're comparing 3 years to 30 years of Raw, so it's
More, yeah.
it's not an apples to apples comparison at all. But there is something to what Tony's doing, and it's more akin to what WWF used to do. And we've talked about this before. Say what you will about the Attitude Era, and I know a lot of people have a lot of things to say. The shows delivered on a weekly basis an entertaining show, top to bottom. I know for 2 hours I was going to be happy, and when 11 o'clock hit or when 10 o'clock hit, I was good.
You were
Same thing for
also
Nitro.
like 8.
No, I was not 8. I was 12. but I could say the same thing for Nitro during that era too, which wasn't as risque as
Right.
Raw, and I would say had the better wrestling. Same
for
thing.
sure.
Like I knew, okay, I'm going to watch Nitro for 2 hours. I'm going to be happy when this show goes off, and it's because they were listening to the fans, both companies.
Because they cared. Because they lived or died by fan reaction.
Right, because they knew if one company got a better reaction than the other company, that could be it. Like it was life or death. And they acted like it was life or death. And, when you make $1 billion with a B, Dr. Evil style, over a year from corporations, from advertisements, from Saudi Arabia, you can do what you want and not really have to care about what we say and what we think.
Yeah, if you're in like a 10-year contract with Saudi Arabia and you are telling the world that you're in a 10-year contract with Saudi Arabia, you don't care what other people think about you.
No, you ran out of F's to give 20 years ago.
Yeah.
That's done and over with. But we say all this again not to dump on WWE.
No.
But to
speak for yourself. I say this to dump on WWE.
Fair. Okay, that's fair. Okay, let me rephrase that. I say this not to dump on WWE or the people who love WWE, because that's normally how that works. You dump on the company, people take it personally and feel like you're dumping on them. I'm not dumping on you, people who love WWE. I like WWE.
Yeah, I like 42% of WWE.
That sounds about right. I will second that. That number sounds about right. And not to say one is better than the other, because look, man, you're going to like what you like. But I'm going to say for me, AEW does more of what I want in a wrestling show.
Mm-hmm.
AEW is more of what I want in a wrestling product. So I'm going to enjoy what they're doing more because it just speaks to me more. Like as much as Vince and friends want to make fun of AEW for that TV 14 logo in the top left-hand corner of their show when it comes on, that means a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Because that means that I'm going to get a mature show, not blood and guts mature show. Although yes, obviously we'll get that, but it's going to be a show that's written for someone who is, I don't know, an adult possibly, maybe.
Yeah, us 8-year-olds who loved wrestling in the 90s would like to have TV 14 wrestling in our 30s. That makes sense.
We're not asking for much. We're just asking that you grow up with us. That's it. That's all I'm asking.
Okay, let's continue to dump on WWE. The rumor is that WrestleMania isn't set at all, and WrestleMania is very close.
It's close. Not only is it close, Stella, it's also
Oh,
stupendous.
it's stupendously close.
Yes.
For it being their biggest show of the year, and not just like the biggest WWE show, it's the biggest wrestling show in the year. It's one of the biggest events in sports, period, of the year. Like people who don't watch wrestling throughout the year will come and watch WrestleMania because they have nostalgia or whatever, right?
It goes Super Bowl, WrestleMania.
The fact that we are, 2 months away and the rumors are everybody is miserable and they've had to rewrite the show over and over and over again does not inspire a lot of faith with a 2-night stupendous event.
No. And that also speaks to the fact that there needs to be a change in management. And I will say this to dump on Vince. You cannot run a company the way he runs a company. Someone spoke on this recently, a wrestler who used to work for WWE, now works at AEW. And since a lot of wrestlers do that, I can't pinpoint which one it was. But they said it's different when you know where the story's going from the minute you start it.
Yep.
Versus the story could change tomorrow. Why? Well, because the story changed. Basketball reasons. Cool, fine. And that has to be a reason why these cats feel awful while they're in the back. They're miserable, of course. They don't know what's what. They and then also there was to that rumor. I'm gonna attach this one to it because I think they're both combined, like the Megazord. They all feel miserable because they're like, well, we don't matter because we're not Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns,
Ronda Rousey,
Charlotte Flair, Ronda Rousey, Becky Lynch. 5 people in that company matter. Like, let's be real about that. All right. Like we can talk about, we can talk about Sasha. We can talk about Bianca. We can talk about Big E. We can talk about Lashley. We can talk about KO, Seth Rollins, you name it. We can talk about all these different people. To quote The Rock, it doesn't matter. Those are the only 5 people who matter. And the wrestlers know, if I know that as a mere writer, if you know that as a mere writer, if the fans know that as mere observers from our computers, yep, it's obvious that the people who work at the company know that.
WrestleMania should be the culmination of storylines, right?
It's a season finale.
It's a season finale. It is a season finale and it kicks off the next season. The fact that there is one story right now, like the Roman Reigns Brock Lesnar one, like that going to Mania, like that does make sense. I mean, even the fact that like Ronda chose Charlotte, that's a new random story. Like if they had done Ronda and Becky, that would have made more sense. Ronda and Charlotte, they do have history. Yes, there was that triple there, whatever. Like it makes sense to some degree, but like WrestleMania,
it makes sense in a like slanted eye, 3D magic eye kind of way. Yeah.
If I squint and turn my head, it makes sense. WrestleMania should be the season finale, and it's not. They are gonna. WrestleMania shouldn't be slapdash. This is slapdash.
Yep, it's completely right, and it's to your point. There are so many other stories they were telling the entire year that should finish at Mania. Again, I'm not saying this because I love Bianca, although I love Bianca. Bianca and Becky is the logical conclusion to the WrestleMania thing. Like if we're going off of the stories you've told the entire year, those two, Charlotte and Becky. Another story you've told the entire year. I'm not a fan of unifying those belts, but that at least I could say, yes, that makes sense. Cool.
Honestly, though, like they don't act like they have multiple belts on brands anymore because they don't act like they have multiple brands anymore. Even though they technically have different brands and different rosters and stuff. Like, I don't know. I don't want the belts to get unified because I like having 2 brands. When I say belts, I mean the main belt, the tag belts, the women's belts. Like I'm talking writ large. But part of me is like, at this point, who fucking cares?
Well, that's how I feel about the championship belt and the universal belt. I'm just like, you know what, man? Clearly, y'all don't give a fuck. So do what you want. Like they don't care.
Yeah,
it's obvious they don't care. Lashley cuts a promo on Raw this past Monday, which he's doing in front of his home crowd, and he just sounds like a man who's trying to convince everyone, his home crowd even, that he matters just as much as Brock Lesnar. That's what that entire promo was about. And there's no way, there's no reason, there's no God-given reason on this earth or any other earth, 52 of them, I believe, that Bobby Lashley, the WWE champion, should have to convince anybody that he matters just as much as a person who doesn't have a belt.
If you got 2 belts, treat it like you got 2 belts.
Exactly. Like, he needs to be just as big as Roman. He's not. When Big E was the champion, he needed to be just as big as Roman. He lost to Roman. Cleanly, I might add.
He lost cleanly to several people, and it was
right.
worst.
Yes. Like, there was a way to make Bobby look really good when he beat Brock at the Rumble. They chose not to go that route.
Yeah.
He looks like a chump. He's out there basically telling everyone, I'm not a chump. I'm great. And he knows. MVP knows what we know. And it's so weird that they don't have any of this taken care of.
The best case scenario right now is that they will have a messy WrestleMania, and it will act as a restart. It will act as a restart button, and we can have like maybe some competent story. Like maybe people come back, like Bayley comes back, some people come back. We get some surprises. We have like maybe a really good Raw after Mania, and we could just like wash this year from our brains and start fresh. Like that's my hope right now, because I do not exist in a world where WrestleMania is going to be worth two of my nights.
Is Drew doing anything at Mania?
As of right now, Drew's not doing anything at Mania, but the rumors are that they want to keep Drew strong because they would like Drew to be in a feud with Roman post-Mania.
So he can lose. So again, it's like, okay, we want to keep him strong so we can make Roman look good.
Who knows? Like, we don't know. Like, Brock could walk out of Mania with the belt.
He could, and Brock's talking about unifying the belt, and they've talked about it more than once now, which makes me think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, here's a prediction. It's not a spoiler. It's a prediction.
It's not a spoiler. It's a promise.
There you go. Let's do that one. It's not a spoiler. It's a promise. Brock is winning the Elimination Chamber. All right. So he's going to be the WWE champion.
Yeah.
We're going to have a title unification match at Mania on one of the stupendous nights. Whichever one of them walks away with it. Hopefully that is the reset that you're talking about, because now we can just say, okay, you know what? We're going to wipe the entire slate clean now with this men's division. We're going to start from scratch. It's been a cluster cuss. Roman is your champ or Brock is your champ. Deal with it. And just start seeding and like competent writing from there. I refuse to believe a company that used to be really good at this kind of thing isn't just no longer good at it. Just, I mean, to be fair, they didn't just get bad at it, but they knew how to do it. This isn't rocket science for them.
You know what they need, Marcus? They need a professor. What's living rent free in your head this week?
Serena Deeb. I love Serena Deeb.
That's your girl. Every time she comes on, you're like, that's my girl.
Yes, I love her so much. She is such a gangster. She came out on Dynamite just with a mic in her hand, just talking all her shit. Said, yo, I'm gonna give you 5 minutes. And then she didn't even she waited a minute, just like, I'm gonna give her an extra minute, and she still beat the girl. Now, granted, she's not beating big names here, but it's just her swagger right now is on a different level. I love everything she's doing. And again, when does she get in the title picture? Obviously, they're not going to do it with the TBS belt yet, because they're still trying. Clearly, they love Jade. I love Jade. Everyone loves Jade. Everyone should love Jade. They don't want to do that yet. And to be honest, Serena deserves a bigger belt. Now, so my question keeps going. How long can they keep her away from DMD? That's the thing that's living free in my head. How do you make these two meet?
I really like what they're doing with her specifically, because she had that feud with Sheeta where she did look like a gangster. She beat her up so bad they sent her back to her home country.
You can't be in America anymore, homie. You're done.
Yeah, she's like, I have to go back home to recover and get away from this crazy woman because she is chasing me around, and I cannot heal.
Yep.
And I like what they're doing with her, where she's like, I'm a professor. You get 5 minutes in the ring with me, and that is going to be, you're going to learn so much, and I'm going to hurt you so badly.
Oh, I love it so
I
much.
love what they're doing with her, because you're right. They if they put her in a match with Britt, it would be unbelievable for Serena Deeb to lose, unless there was chicanery. But they're building a very different feud with Britt right now, which is dope, and we'll talk about it in a second. So I think the way that they're using Deeb as like it's like a placeholder, but not a placeholder, because she gets promos and interviews, and she's, she used to be a trainer. We all know that she was a trainer at WWE. So using that element as like a way to spotlight younger talent that's maybe on dark or not signed yet, but also continue to look like Banff and continue to build up her record in AEW. So smart. Because the moment she faces somebody with a belt, they're going to, if they're not ready to give it to her, they're going to have to do a lot of like mental gymnastics to get us to believe that somebody lost to her.
And this is what I keep coming back to. I keep sitting there watching on TV. I'm like, all right, the commentary telling me she's the best. Period. That's what they keep saying.
Yeah, JR
She said
every
she's
week
the
is like,
best.
this is the best wrestler in the women's division, maybe in
Right.
this locker
Right.
room.
Yeah. Like, and nobody disagrees with him. So I'm like, all right, the company's telling me she's the best. She's telling me she's the best. If she loses to Britt or whoever the champion may be, if she loses to Jade or whoever the champion is, I'm sorry, man. I call bullshit. I just call bullshit right now. So that's the thing that's just living in my head. I'm not going to, I can sit here and talk about Serena for the rest of the show. I'm not going to do that. But go Serena. I love you. I heart you. It's Valentine's Day is coming up. Will you be mine? That's all I need to know.
I do want to talk about Jade really quick. That's not what's living rent free in my head, but I know a lot of people were like, they shouldn't give it to Jade because she's so green, blah, 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 blah. The championship match that she had with Ruby was really good, but had a couple messy spots. I totally disagree. I love everything they're doing with Jade. This TBS championship is a secondary belt. Use it like a secondary belt. Every time Jade gets in the ring, she is better. And now we get to see her wrestle more on TV. We get to see more women on TV. The fact that we're having multiple, like, not even multiple women's segments, but multiple women's matches on Dynamite is very exciting. And Jade is putting on some good matches. And I don't need all my wrestlers to be the best wrestlers in the world, right? I don't mind a green talent and watching them get better. I mean, that's what golden age of like NXT was. It wasn't a lot of people from the indies that were coming on. It was a lot of people who had a little time on the indies or were homegrown talent getting better, right? Sasha wasn't incredible when she started in NXT, but she got incredible. And I liked being on that journey. And I like being on that journey with Jade. And I think that she's doing a fantastic job. And I just wanted to give her props.
Yes, thank you. Because I also second everything you said. I second everything you said. Jade is a star. That's the other thing.
She's that bitch.
And yes, you said it, not me. Jade is the biggest star in that division. Like outside of Britt, she just carries herself in a way that no one else does. And you need someone like that to hold a championship belt. That's
she's
not
got that it factor. She's got charisma. Yes. She's got a look. She's got power. She's got a sick figure. And she gets better every time she's in the ring. And that is all I ask. Like, you don't have to be the best.
Right. It's funny. I mean, we're going to dovetail a little bit. Gino and I were having the same conversation about Mandy Rose. That Mandy isn't Sasha, isn't Bayley, isn't Becky, but she also doesn't need to be because that's not the type of champion she is. Right. The match Mandy had with Kaylee Ray on NXT recently was good. Was it the best match ever? Of course. Like she's not that type of wrestler. She's also not that type of heel. Right.
Also, the point of that match wasn't really a one-on-one. It was to get us to Io and Kaylee Ray.
Exactly. Right. And Mandy is perfect in her role. And she's getting better in the ring, on the mic. She's comfortable. She sounds like, she believes everything she says. And like you just said, you don't need all your wrestlers to be a certain type of wrestler. Like champions can all come in different shapes and sizes. And what I like about Mandy, very similar to what I like about Jade, well, what I used to like about Jade, because Jade's gone away from this because she
Yeah.
just kind of has to now, is that Mandy is a heel who isn't worried about cheating. Like, she will cheat to win a match. And even though most, I think all of WWE champions are heels right now, only one of them is okay with cheating to win a match. Well, okay, all except Braun. Only one of them is okay with cheating, and that's Mandy. And that's what you need. That's going to help get everyone else over, because people are going to be pissed that this champion just will not go down peacefully, will not play by the rules, and it just builds everybody up. And we need flavor, we need variety.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to agree and disagree with you on the Mandy Rose thing. I agree with you on that. I don't need her to be the best wrestler, and I do think Mandy is pretty competent in the ring, and I like to see her get better. I disagree about toxic attraction in general. I think
Well,
it's
that's
a
yes.
messy, not great gimmick and I like 2 out of 3 of those wrestlers a lot.
I'm only laughing because we talk about this all the time. I know how you feel about Jason.
But I do agree that we don't need everybody to be the pinnacle. We can have some different talent levels, and we can let people get better and let people show different sides. Like, wrestling shouldn't be one thing. So that's my shout out to Jade, and a mini shout out, I guess, to Mandy. Okay.
Mostly to Jade, though.
Living rent free in my head this week is Mercedes Martinez. Okay, so I am a big Shimmer wrestling person. I am a big women's wrestling person. Like, if you put a gun to my head and said you can only watch, certain wrestling for the rest of your life, I'd be like, get rid of all the men. I just want to see the women wrestle. Like, that's all I care about. I've seen Mercedes wrestle live a million times. I've never seen a bad match from her. She's so delightful. So I personally have a deep connection to her. Like, she's probably in my top 10. Like, I love her so much. When she was in AEW as like the ace or whatever a long time ago.
The Joker. The
Joker. And they didn't sign her. I was like, y'all are fools. What is wrong with you? And then she went to WWE, and WWE did not use her super effectively, but they also didn't use her as poorly as they've used other people, right? She was still like presented as somebody not to mess with. She had some really good matches. It just, I feel like they treated her like, oh, well, you're a little bit older and we don't want to invest that much time in you. And then she got knocked out and kicked out.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
That's what happened. Yeah. When she interfered in the TBS championship tournament and messed with Thunder Rosa and pulled her mask and hood off, and it revealed to be her, like, I screamed, I freaked out. And then we've been building to this feud between her and Thunder Rosa, and like, oh, both of them are such good wrestlers. This is going to be exciting. They had so many good like video packages, like pump it directly in my veins. I'm so excited. They have their match on Rampage, and I gotta admit, I was disappointed. I was like, I like Rampage as a show, but that's not the A show, and this is an A feud. Like, yeah, there aren't championships in it, but these are A wrestlers. And it was a good match, and then Mercedes pulls out this pipe and then just beats up Thunder Rosa, gets a DQ, but she gets a DQ on her own terms, right? So yeah, she's got her first loss in AEW, but she don't give a. And she goes backstage to give an interview, and it's like, I'm this badass, like, you gotta watch out for me. And then we get the story with Britt Baker, the champion, who we know cheats, who we know has like a posse of people. She's hired Mercedes to mess with Thunder Rosa because Britt is afraid of Thunder Rosa, which is looping it back around to their amazing feud, Bloody Britt, like that's the thing that shot Britt like way into pillar territory, right?
That's why Britt is where she is. Yeah,
right. We can never forget that like Thunder Rosa was a part of that, and so for her to like loop it around and have the Mercedes, it's such good storytelling. Like, Mercedes comes in to mess with the TBS championship, so we think, oh, Jade must have hired her. No. Britt hired Mercedes to mess with Thunder Rosa because Britt doesn't want to fight Thunder Rosa. And Mercedes will take Britt's money and definitely mess with Thunder Rosa, but Britt also better watch out because Mercedes only plays for herself. And the fact that like kayfabe or whatever, Britt and Jade are actually like really nice to each other as champions online and stuff. They have in-universe respect, but they took pictures together at the Bulls game. And so I also love this like meta narrative of like Britt and Jade are these, you know, they both in essence have called themselves like that bitch, or I'm the bitch of the, you know, in a positive way. Like I'm the one that runs the show, but they have this mutual respect for each other. So it's also like Britt hired Mercedes to mess with Thunder Rosa because she doesn't want to fight Thunder Rosa, but also like maybe to do a solid for her girl Jade. I just love the layers and layers of this storytelling. Personally, I'm excited because I love Mercedes, but also this is like a intricate web, and I'm in for it. And now we're gonna get a no DQ match against Thunder Rosa with Mercedes, and that is gonna be so dope.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm clearly freaking out about that. This is everything I want. This is why I still watch wrestling, even though I'm disappointed 80% of the time. Like these things, these bring me so much joy that it's worth it.
What you said, yeah.
Yeah, I said a lot.
Right. Yeah, I can't compete with that, man. Like, but I agree with you on loving the intricacy of it. And this, again, goes back to what we talked about earlier in the show. Storytelling, good storytelling, thoughtful storytelling, making things connect and that you're not even thinking about. You know, I remember when Jamie fought Thunder Rosa, you know, it was a big deal. And it was like, no, you know, and I remember Britt saying, we don't speak that name. You know, we don't even acknowledge her.
Because Britt knows that Thunder Rosa is a threat. Like,
yes.
if one thing had gone differently in that match or in their feud, Thunder Rosa would be the champion right now, not Britt.
Right. And she wanted Jamie to take her out, and Jamie didn't, which is why there's a little contention between the two of them now. Because one, Jamie wants what Britt has also, but two, she didn't get the job done.
And she had to bring in Mercedes.
Exactly, which is why she had to bring in a hired gun who could get the job done, who's also doing a solid for her girl. And her girl was like, I don't know who this woman is. I didn't do a thing. And I immediately thought, oh, Jade's lying. And it turns out, oh no, she was telling the truth. Like, she didn't know her. And now you've got layer on top of layer on top of layer, and it's all these different moving parts, and it could go any direction. You know, Jamie could be like, no, you know what? And she could take everybody out if she wanted. Mercedes could, after Mercedes done with Thunder Rosa, she, like you said, she could go to Britt and be like, all right, so what's up? I want your belt now. Or she could go to Jamie and say, yeah, so you're done. I work for her now. We're moving you out of the spot. She paid me a whole lot of money. I got to take you out. It just works.
It opens itself up to so many different storylines.
Yes, and that's what wrestling should be, is that before a match or after a match, before a feud, after a feud, there needs to be multiple directions it can go. And whenever it's done, everyone needs to have a lane. You know what I mean? Like, everyone needs to pick a direction. And I don't know where this is going to go when it's over. And that makes me very, very, very excited, because so much of this shit in both companies, to be honest, can get very predictable. And when they start doing the storytelling on this level, it's not, you know, this harkens back to the Hangman thing we were talking about. That long story of Hangman and Kenny, and Hangman losing his confidence and not trying to get with the Dark Order because he didn't want to deal with partners anymore. And, you know, we knew why, because he was hurt. And then he ended up opening up to them. And when he opened up, he ended up getting his title, like all this stuff. Like, it's all deep. And he could have lost to Kenny. You know, like, that would have been an unsatisfying story, but he could have lost to Kenny, and that would have taken the story in a different direction. I just love this of keeping Britt the focus of a thing while not having her defend the belt.
And having a mid-card feud that supports the main card. Like, that is smart.
Yes. So aces all around. I completely understand why that's living rent-free in your head. It's not Serena Deeb, but I completely understand it.
Are you ready for a question from our listeners?
Sure.
So I have this question from Ben P. What do you think of Bryan Danielson's offer of friendship to Jon Moxley?
It's the best thing they've done with Moxley since bringing him back, and it has potential to be. I don't know what it has potential to be, and that's why I love it.
Yeah.
You know, because it was just such. You know, Bryan was spitting facts.
That's the best part about Bryan Danielson as a heel. He's always telling the truth. He's just doing it in a way that's like, Oh, he's kind of being a dick though.
Right. It's almost like, man, if you were nicer, I'd be down for what you're saying, but
Yeah.
shit. And I love that CM Punk chose Moxley as his partner this week. Now, for those of you who don't know, or you missed Dynamite, CM Punk needed to pick a partner to face FTR, to face FTR. If he could find a partner and they win the match, then he gets a rematch with MJF, whatever type of match he wants. I think it's with MJF, but then sometimes it seems like it was with Wardlow. That was a little confusing segment.
I mean, that's also that whole feud, right? It's like he's feuding with MJF, but he's also like fighting with Wardlow.
Right. So either way, Punk gets what he wants if he could find a partner to fight FTR.
But he can't choose Sting or Darby Allin.
Yes, but not Sting. Not Mr. Stink or Darby or Little Darby. So he chooses Jon Moxley. Of course he chooses Jon Moxley.
Because Samoa Joe and Danhausen did not answer his tweets.
That, and also the Shield connection. Like, even that, like, I love AEW being like, oh, you two do have a connection, in this wrestling universe that we're building.
Yeah, that callback was subtle but obvious at the same time. Like, I did not pick up on that right away, and then the moment somebody said it, I was like, duh.
Right, of course.
Duh.
It's like, oh, right, you're the guy who
literally was crying over the Shield like 3 weeks ago, and I already forgot. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's the guy who brought them into WWE, in kayfabe. So, of course he's cool with Mox, but CM Punk and Bryan always have this thing. They always have this tete-a-tete. So, Moxley teaming with Punk before he gives even a yes or no to Bryan about anything. Very interesting. Very curious to see how that goes.
We didn't get any shot of Bryan Danielson watching the TV or next to the ring, because for weeks up until Bryan gave him his offer, we would see him watching Moxley's matches or being ringside or like smiling at him after the match. And so we thought it was just going to be like, I'm next. We're going to fight next. But then he presents this offer of like, we're on a different level than everybody else. We could run this show. Like there's clowns in Canadian tuxedos. Like, what is happening here? And Moxley had that look of kind of like, I mean, this guy's a dick, but he didn't say no, he didn't say yes, but like, so we don't know, and it's impossible to know what Jon Moxley is thinking at any point in time, right? So it could be he chose to go with CM Punk as like kind of a preemptive FU to Bryan Danielson, or a like, let me test the waters of a team up. I haven't teamed with people in a while. Let me test the water of a team up. But I think it's very interesting that we didn't get any shot, any reaction, anything from Bryan. I think that was really smart. And
I will give AEW the benefit of the doubt. That was purposeful. That wasn't someone.
It feels very purposeful.
Yeah, they didn't just forget. And as a Spider-Man geek who relates everything in my life to Spider-Man, legitimately, it's very sad, but also very funny.
I'm literally wearing an X-Men shirt. I'm that with X-Men. So
I'm wearing a Spider-Man shirt. So yeah, there it is. It's very similar to the Green Goblin and Spider-Man conversation. Not even just from the movie, but Green Goblin's whole thing with Peter has always been, as Peter Parker, you are a genius. You're one of the smartest people in the world. But what do you do with it? As Spider-Man, you're one of the strongest human beings on the planet. What do you do with it? You go out and save people. You go out and you don't seize power. You're wasting it. You're wasting your talent as Peter Parker. You're wasting your talent as Spider-Man. You should work with me. We can run this city. We can run the world. And basically it's Norman Osborn saying, you can be the son that I don't have. You're better than Harry. And Peter always, he's Peter. So of course he's like, no. And he never once entertains it. But Moxley's not Peter Parker.
No, Moxley's here, thirsting for blood. I'll never let go.
Right. And even that, it even works with that promo. He's thirsting for blood. It goes back to that promo. He's here for blood. Bryan wants to kick people's effing heads in. Why not team up? It makes all the sense in the world. So I think it's great. Whichever way it goes, whether we get them as a 2-man power trip or whether we get them feuding for a couple months because Bryan doesn't like the fact that he got turned down. I'm down with it either way.
Me too. All right, lightning round. Hit me with your last thoughts.
Andrade is finally going to be in a title picture, not the title picture, but a title picture. I'm happy for it. The AHFO, yeah, it's so weird. The AHFO thing is just, I don't know. It's funny, but I don't like it. But
Agreed.
It's funny. It's one of the things. I'm like, oh, this is comical.
I like everyone in the group.
Yes.
It just, especially for a show with a bajillion stables, it just feels haphazard and random.
Yes.
But I like everybody in the group, so okay.
Yeah, and I get a kick whenever he calls Sting stink, and he says Darby's the little boy who works for him. I think that's hilarious. But come on, Andrade's better than that, and I'm happy that he got serious this past Dynamite and said, I'm going to be the TNT champion. And Sammy apparently heard that. Sammy wrote in his cue cards, Andrade, and gave him the middle finger. I love it, man. Let's do it. And like, I love Sammy too, but I really want to see Andrade with a belt.
Mhm.
I need to see that. So yeah, Andrade, title picture. Let's do it. I'm down.
That goes into one of my lightning rounds. If Sammy lost the belt to Andrade, he could just blame it on being a child of divorce. The inner circle is in turmoil. I love that. I love that Sammy was just like, I'll be in my room, figure it out.
You know what, guys? I'm gonna be in my room. I'm just gonna play some video games, listen to music while you figure it out.
Just somebody tweeted. I tweeted that, and somebody said he's just backstage blasting Black Parade.
Yep.
No headphones for everybody to feel his angst.
Yep.
I am so glad that the Inner Circle is breaking up. I like the Inner Circle. I think they did great stuff for however bajillion long they lasted. They were a weird ragtag group, but it really worked. And anytime we thought they were going to break up, they made it through, and it was good storytelling. But it is time. Sammy clearly doesn't need them. Jericho will be fine doing whatever. Santana and Ortiz are a fantastic tag team that need to be free of Jericho, need the spotlight. I mean, when Jericho was like, you had a tag match a year ago and you messed it up. Like, a year ago, that's the problem. That's too long.
Bruv, you don't hear yourself, do you, bruv?
Yeah.
You don't. Yeah.
Jake Hager, whatever. Who cares?
Yeah, Jake's the kid that nobody wants in a divorce. Yeah. And, it's like, do you want him? No, we can split custody. It's fine.
Yeah. So I'm really happy for Santana and Ortiz.
I love the Inner Circle. I am not a fan of the breakup, but just because I like groups staying together and trying to, I like groups staying together and figuring out how can we do.
So long, Marcus.
Well, here's what I'm saying. I like when groups stay together and they figure out how we can still work and succeed while also being a group. Again, I love the Wu-Tang Clan.
Well, and we're like New Day fans. Like, that makes sense.
And it's right. It's Wu-Tang New Day. Like, I love when we can just band off and go do our own thing, but we still come together like Voltron when you need to come together like Voltron. That said, I don't disagree with anything Santana and Ortiz are saying. They are 1,000% correct.
Yeah.
Anytime they were getting momentum to be Santana and Ortiz, they had to, squad up for the Inner Circle stuff. Yeah. And that's cool for Jake Hager, who's doing nothing with his life. Sammy's clearly, two belt Sammy right now, walking around with two belts like an idiot. God, that's
like
dumb.
A little nerd.
Right. just pick one, dude. Like, it's okay. Or just get someone to unify them. Anyway. They deserve more than that. Like, I know, I was saying, you were saying, a bunch of us were saying, these guys should have been tag champs a year ago, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
There's no reason they shouldn't, it shouldn't be FTR, the Young Bucks, Lucha Bros, and now Jungle Express, Jurassic Express. I'm sorry. And now I'm thinking about Jungle
do it all the time. I write Jungle Express all the time. I'm like, nope, that's
so
wrong.
Easy, right? There's no reason those guys should be the only guys in that title picture. So their beef is legitimate.
And it gives something for Eddie to do without having to team up with Mox or re-involve. Like, Mox doesn't need Eddie right now. They'll always, if they need each other, you know, they're ride or die. That story's always going to be there. But Eddie being the like devil on their shoulder or angel on their shoulder, depending on how you look at it, and being in their corner makes a lot of sense and gives Eddie something to do.
And on top of that, as we've seen over the 2 or 3 decades of us watching wrestling, there's money in the reunion.
Yeah.
So eventually, you know, they'll break up. A couple years from now, they'll get back together for like, oh, you know, one night only, yeah, and then yeah,
the inner circle, one night only at
yeah,
the Fozzy concert.
Yeah, how many times did DX reunite? I mean, come on, man. They're gonna milk that thing. They're gonna have another more inner circle shows, but to the point of comic book stuff, Mary Jane and Peter Parker. You got to break them up to get them back together. So one more thing for the lightning round. Apparently, there's a rumor that apparently no one is happy with Big E's place in the card. They don't feel he deserves it. Yes and yes.
Yeah, Big E's disappointed, and all of his friends are disappointed.
Yes, and apparently his friends are the entire locker room.
Yeah, because Big E's the best.
Right, and for those of you who, you know, you're not watching WWE right now for whatever reason, Big E was the WWE heavyweight champion for X amount of months.
Hot second.
He lost unceremoniously, I might add, to Brock Lesnar at day one. He then lost to Seth Rollins on the following night on Raw, or the following night after that on Raw. 2 nights after on Raw, sorry. And now he's back in the mid card.
Well, not even as a singles wrestler. He's right. A tag wrestler again, which is like whatever. We love the New Day.
On another brand though, Stella. Like,
but that
he's
is
not
a
even on Raw anymore.
Yeah.
He's not even on Raw anymore. They were just like, all right, well, you're going to SmackDown now and you're back in the New Day. Which again, cool, but dude,
I don't know how WWE messes things up so badly sometimes. Like, remember the pop when Big E won Money in the Bank? Do you remember the pop?
Yeah, I wrote about it.
They had to hear that, right? So how do you hear that? Hear what the audience thinks of this man. How excited they are. Know the merch money New Day brings in. Know like that. Know who these people are in your company and what they represent, and then mess it up so bad. Big E is money, and they just lit that money on fire.
There's a saying in politics of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. That's what they do every single time, especially with this. Not just the pop from winning the Money in the Bank, but the pop from winning the title. That night, that Raw, that was an exciting Raw because he won the title. And the way in which he won the title. And they proceeded to give him, and he's spoken on this, they proceeded to give him a disappointing title run that, you know, like, for what? And E should be at WrestleMania as the champion.
As a singles wrestler.
Yes, as the as WWE champion, either as a champion, fighting again for the title, whatever. He needs to be in the main event. And you know, like, I just don't.
Yeah.
The amount of things that they do because they're like, well, this is the big attraction. The big attraction is Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar came into WWE 20 years ago.
Well, and also you have 2 brands. Figure it out.
Right. You got 2, like, you don't if you don't do the title unification crap. Let Big E, you know, fight for the WWE champion or be WWE champion, and let him fight Lashley. Let him fight whomever.
Got COVID or had a COVID scare. Totally within his rights to pull from the show, right?
Yeah,
or whatever. There is no reason they needed to put Brock in that match.
They didn't at all.
They didn't need to put Brock in that match.
They could have easily the match is canceled, you know, because of COVID. Brock's angry, but Brock's angry, but we'll deal with Brock. Brock will be fine. You know, in universe, it's like, you know, Lesnar's angry. He called Roman a coward. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, shoot him backstage, destroying stuff, throwing a temper tantrum, getting escorted out or whatever. Like, you don't need to rewrite your story and totally, frankly, derail your second brand and then be in this mess. Bring it back around. to not knowing what to do for Mania. Like they
And
really shot themselves in the foot, and Biggie and friends are suffering. I am part of
and
the
once
friends.
again, yeah, we're all the friends. And once again, if this were 20 years ago, 25 years ago, what you just said is what would have happened.
Yeah.
But for some reason now, they just lost it. I don't get it. Like these are simple solutions. Oh, we can't have them wrestle. Cool. Well, let's do this thing with Brock, and cool. We'll catch up down the road. Fine. Roman wasn't even gone that long.
They exist in like a 24-hour time bubble. Nothing exists before or after it, and they just make random decisions.
Right.
And it shows.
And the only person, well, that's not fair, because Bruce Pritchard is there also. The only two people with institutional knowledge who are in power to make creative changes apparently forgot all that institutional knowledge. Like Vince and Bruce have been there every single step of the way.
Supreme Court justices shouldn't get their spots for life, and neither should the head writers of a wrestling company.
Here. We are putting politics into your wrestling. Sorry, not sorry.
You work in politics, and I am incapable of keeping my mouth shut.
The fact that I've kept it shut this long about politics is amazing. Yes.
I can't keep my mouth shut, which means that I talk crap all the time about people, including copious amounts about Ronda Rousey, which is too bad because I think I may have hurt her feelings.
You and everyone else, because apparently Ronda does not like the booze.
Okay, here's the thing. If I'm
gonna get out the way and let you do this.
If I'm gonna be a human being for a moment and not like a fun wrestling talking head or whatever, yeah, I'm sure it really sucks to hear somebody boo you, especially because Ronda Rousey is not coming in under a character name or whatever. She's coming in under her own name, under her own image, like building off of the stuff she did in MMA. Whatever. I'm sure that it does not feel good to have people boo you and have it feel like it's a personal thing and not on your character. That is where I will draw the line at being nice. This is your job. You're a performer. You are performing badly because coming from MMA, where you are a persona but not necessarily a performer, did not prepare you to be a capital P performer. You did not take acting classes. I know, I've seen you in movies. You are not prepared for the failure of being
Furious 7
in front of a crowd who is not in love with you, because for a long time she was the darling of UFC until she had that chef kiss embarrassing like loss, which I sometimes just watch for fun when I'm feeling bad. She is not prepared to be booed, and because she hasn't been booed in this way, she has been protected by UFC and WWE and Hollywood to an extent. She thinks that she can say anything she wants, both in the ring and out of the ring, and not have it have repercussions. Like, I'm sorry, ma'am, I remember your turf comments, and I remember the misogynist things you've said about other women. Like, I remember those things. And also come into the ring and cut a piss poor promo with no charisma and a confusing promo. Like, are you a face? Are you a heel? Or what is happening? Like, and she is an okay wrestler. I will give her that. She is not terrible. Like, she can do some cool stuff and has in the past had moments where she really blends her MMA background and a pro wrestling background. And I do think that she does work hard in the ring physically. And I do, again, think it's impressive. She had a baby 4 months ago and came back and is like pumping in the dressing room and kicking butt in the ring. I will give her credit for that. But like, you are a performer and you are doing poorly at your job. And you, specifically Ronda Rousey, are getting every opportunity that so many wrestlers in the back, both women and men, are not getting. And you are failing at that. And it's your fault. And I don't care about your feelings.
I'm clapping for those of you who can't hear it. Preach. The only thing I can say to that is, hey, man. And hey, man, I'm talking to you, Ronda. So, hey, ma'am, I'm sorry. There was once a wrestler who was also booed by fans, mercilessly, I might add. to the point they told him they wanted him to die. He took it personally also, and he then became the biggest wrestler in the world, and he's now the biggest actor in the world. I believe his name is Dwayne Johnson, aka The Rock. Die, Rocky, die was not something made up. He managed to, turn that into something pretty dope, I believe. So if he can do it, you can too. If he can take all that emotion that he felt from those fans booing him and wishing death upon him and become so much better at his job, and it's not even to say he was bad at his job when he was getting booed.
He is a bad actor, though.
Well,
okay, sorry, different podcast.
He was, but much like Ronda, he was given a lot that other wrestlers weren't at that time. And I'm sure a lot of the fans.
Think about
Roman too. Roman was Roman was mercilessly heck. Speaking of The Rock again, Rock comes out at that Royal Rumble, holds Roman's hands up, and gets bombarded with boos. To the point The Rock has a puzzled look on his face. I will never forget that look.
Yeah,
of what the hell?
Are they booing me? No, right. They're booing you. They're booing you. They're definitely not booing me.
Rock, it's almost like Rock wasn't watching wrestling for a couple of weeks, decided to come do this.
Couple years. Come on.
You're right. Couple of years, decided to come back, do this, and he's like, oh, they don't like this guy? Oh, man. What did Vince just put me in? And look at Roman now. Use that. Now, and this goes to something, again, WWE, and I think you said this. You did say this last week. I pay attention to you.
Thanks.
WWE so wants her to be a face. They so want her to be a face.
Well, apparently she is a face now. Fine, be a face. But if she's going to be a face, it is her job to get the crowd to cheer for her. And there is a section of the audience who will never cheer for her. I will never cheer for her. I just won't. I think that I have a lot of feelings about her. I will never cheer for her. But a lot of people will. A lot of people have. That audience that was booing her last week, it was like 50-50. It was like 50 boos, 50 cheers. She hasn't lost everybody. But don't go online and talk about how it hurts your feelings. Take an acting class, work backstage, get Natty to help you. Do your job. Do your job. I don't feel bad for you. You were making a lot of money and you took a lot of people's spots. Do your job.
A whole bunch of people. Do what Michael Jordan would do. Take it personally and go get better.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right, that's it. Woo. I gotta go take a shot of whiskey or something to calm me down, or fire me up. I don't know. We'll
exorcism.
See.
You just had an exorcism now.
All right, that's it for this week. Don't stress. We'll be back next week.
If you'd like to be on the podcast, make sure to send your recorded questions and comments to cagesidesocials@gmail.com, and you might be featured on next week's episode.
If you want to follow us, I'm at Twitter at Stella_Cheeks.
And I'm at Abstract Poetic, a 3 with that E supposed to be.
And of course, you can find more wrestling coverage at Cageside Seats on Twitter and Instagram.
Also, if we missed something you desperately want to talk about, head over to cagesideseats.com and chat with us in the comments of this episode post. We do chat back.
Until next time, Cagesiders.
The tapes are always rolling.